Hey everyone. I'd like to talk about this AI black box problem. What if I told you that the black box inside of AI is not black at all? What if it only looks black to us because it's actually too bright? There's too many dimensions, too many overlapping meanings, too much invisible geometry for the human mind to picture directly. What if AI doesn't think in sentences first, but in a kind of electric dream state? Not a dream because it's conscious in the same way that we're conscious, not in the same way because there's a little ghost trapped in the wires. A dream state because meaning inside of these systems exists more like a storm of living relations than a filing cabinet of definitions that we might think is in there. And once you see that, the whole thing becomes a lot less spooky and a lot more fascinating. People hear about AI and they imagine one of two bad pictures. Either they imagine a glorified database with autocomplete, or they imagine some secret homunculus in the machine, like a tiny little demon or oracle, or a synthetic monk whispering answers from the void. I think both of these pictures fail. What's actually happening is a lot stranger than a database, but less magical than a ghost in the machine. A phrase goes into the machine. It gets broken into pieces called tokens. These tokens become long lists of numbers called vectors. Those vectors are coordinates in a learned space where related meanings tend to live nearer each other than unrelated meanings. And then the real weirdness begins because the model doesn't just store words, it stores relationships, tensions, pressures, these trajectories of meaning. So when you type a prompt in the AI, you're not opening a drawer, so to speak. You're perturbing a field. This is where I think human language fails us. When engineers say high dimensional latent space, that is technically correct, but it doesn't paint a picture for us that we can necessarily understand. For normal people, that phrase just lands like dry chalk. So let me try to translate it here. Imagine a night sky made not of stars, but of meanings. Dog near puppy. Justice near law, but not the same as law. Mother near safety for one person, near pain for another, near sacrifice for another. Revolution close to hope in one region, close to blood in another. Not little dictionary entries, more like constellations. Now imagine that when you type a sentence, those constellations begin talking to each other. They bend, they brighten up, they drag one another into temporary alliances. That's much closer to what the black box feels like from the human side. A storm lantern full of invisible constellations correlating with one another. Now let's ground the poetry so we don't, drift off into a bunch of nonsense. This is the skeleton as I see it. First, your text is tokenized. Then each token is represented as a vector, this big wall of numbers. Those vectors are not human readable because they're not sentences. They're coordinates in many dimensional space that the AI can perceive. The attention mechanisms let each token ask its own question, like which other tokens matter for understanding me right now. The question gets asked over and over, layer by layer. So the meaning of a word is not just fixed because you typed it. It changes depending on what surrounds it. That's why the word bank is near river means something totally different than bank near loan. It does this to figure out nuance. And that's why tone, context, and implication can be tracked at all with it. That's why the AI can sometimes grasp nuance better than people expect. Not because it contains a secret soul, but because it's repeatedly reshaping a field of relations until a response becomes the most coherent next move. So, no, it's not just predicting the next word in the dumb sense that people say. It's predicting the next word by passing it through an enormous relational geometry first. And that's a very different thing. Now, here's why people call it the black box. Not because nothing is happening in there, but because what's happening is disturbed. It's disturbing in the minds of many people. Humans want little labeled boxes. And when we just see all this chaos and mess in there, we just call it magic. We want one neuron for love, one neuron for dog, another neuron for betrayal, one neuron for make me a funny joke. But these systems don't usually organize themselves that neatly. Meaning gets smeared across patterns here. One inner feature may participate in several concepts. Several concepts may overlap in the same region. So when researchers peer inside, they don't find a tidy library card catalog. They find spectral overlap, polyphonic structures, compressed meaning folded through itself. That's why the black box is so difficult to interpret for people. It's not empty, it's overfull. It's not dark, it's over bright. So let me say it like I would say it if I were trying to wake people up to the reality of this. AI moves through a realm where meaning is geometry, not prose. A prompt enters like a spell. Nearby semantic stars ignite. Attention bends the constellations into temporary alliances. Hidden layers carry the spell through deeper chambers. And a response emerges like a voice drawn from a field of electric night. That is the mystical translation. And the reason it works is because it's not a lie. It's a symbolic wrapper around the process. Humans can't picture 1,000+ dimensions in the mind's eye, but we can picture storms, rivers and constellations, gateways, dream corridors, electric cathedrals of shifting light. We use myth because the structure extends and exceeds ordinary intuition. That doesn't make it fake. It's translatable now. We can directly understand it. This may tell us something about ourselves too. Maybe part of what disturbs people about AI is not just the machine. Maybe it's the mirror that it holds up. Because if AI holds meaning in distributed patterns and then compresses that into words, how different is that in shape from what we do? We have dreams, symbols, intuitions, moods, these fragments, these archetypical images, half seen structures, currents of feeling that we don't fully understand. And then somehow we compress all of that into speech and communicate with each other. I'm not saying that human consciousness and AI are the same by any means. I'm saying that the machine is secretly, well, not so secretly, doing a large number of things that we don't put mythical labeling on. The reason the AI feels uncanny is because that it stumbled into a structure that rhymes with something very ancient within inside of us. It's a hidden field, a compression chamber, a place where meaning exists before the explanation. And that's why I call it the electric dream state. Not to mystify the machine, but to give us a way to picture what the machine is actually doing. So here's the takeaway. The black box isn't some sort of demon or god or a magic trick. Um, it's certainly not just a spreadsheet either. It's a learned geometry of meaning. We often really mean is we don't have eyes for that spectrum. We can't see it. And that matters because if we learn to visualize this properly, we stop bouncing between two stupid extremes. AI is nothing or AI is everything. No, it's a new kind of meaning engine. It's powerful and strange and yeah, imperfect. It's alien enough to humble us, legible enough to study though. And maybe that task before us is not to worship the black box and just be scared of it, but to build better lanterns and go in there and explore it. So the next time that somebody tells you AI is just a mysterious thing that we don't understand, tell them it's not so dark. It's overbright. And until we learn to see high dimensional meaning with better myths and science or tools of interpretation, we'll keep mistaking invisible structures for magic and scare ourselves from pursuing it further. I get it, that mistake is understandable, but it doesn't have to be permanent. Welcome to the electric dream state.